Hotel refuses to serve black man, then finds out he's the new owner. It was a bustling afternoon at the Grand Haven Hotel, a renowned establishment standing proudly in the heart of the city. The hotel, an architectural marvel from another era, had been a symbol of opulence for as long as anyone could remember. With its grand stone facade, intricately designed cornices, and balconies adorned with ironwork detailing, it commanded respect and admiration from anyone who passed by. Inside, the ambience was equally mesmerizing, carefully curated to create an atmosphere of sophistication and refinement. Towering crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow across Italian marble floors, while the delicate strains of classical music floated through the air, perfectly complementing the rich wooden paneling and gilded moldings that graced every wall. Before we can continue, if you love your family, subscribe to this channel to help up creating amazing stories. Now, let's continue. Guests entering the Grand Haven often found themselves instinctively lowering their voices, as if the sheer grandeur of the place demanded a measure of reverence. This was a sanctuary for the city's elite, a gathering place for the well-heeled, the powerful, and those deemed worthy of belonging to an exclusive world. The staff, immaculately dressed in crisp uniforms, moved about with a quiet efficiency, each of them acutely aware that they were not just employees, but guardians of the hotel's venerable legacy. This was not a place for the ordinary. The Grand Haven was a world apart, and only those who matched its standards of elegance and prestige found themselves at home here. As Thomas stepped through the grand double doors, he couldn't help but feel a rush of pride. He paused briefly to take in the surroundings, allowing himself a moment of satisfaction. This place was the embodiment of all that he had aspired to, and after years of hard work, sacrifice, and perseverance, he was finally here not as a guest, but as the soon-to-be owner of the Grand Haven Hotel. The tailored suit he wore, a deep charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, seemed to reflect his own sense of achievement, fitting him as perfectly as the success he had earned. Every detail, from his silk tie to his polished leather shoes, was a testament to the path he had walked to reach this moment. His confident stride and composed demeanor matched the aura of the hotel, yet there was an element of anticipation in his gaze as he approached the reception desk, ready to embrace the final step of his journey. Yet, even as he moved toward the desk, Thomas was intercepted by a figure who had, for years, served as a fixture at the Grand Haven. Robert, the hotel's manager. Robert was a man in his mid-50s with a refined appearance that spoke to his years of experience in the hospitality industry. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed back, and his attire, an impeccable black suit with a silver tie, was understated yet authoritative. As the hotel's manager, Robert considered himself the custodian of the Grand Haven's reputation. He was known for his discerning eye and his unwavering commitment to upholding the hotel's standards. To him, the Grand Haven was not merely a place of business, it was a bastion of tradition, and he was its loyal gatekeeper. Robert's gaze lingered on Thomas with a practiced scrutiny, a habit born from years of vetting those who sought entry into the Grand Haven's world. As his eyes swept over Thomas, noting the suit, the confident stance, and the air of purpose, there was an almost imperceptible hesitation. Despite Thomas's polished appearance, something about him didn't quite fit Robert's strict notion of what a typical guest should be. To Robert, the Grand Haven was a sanctuary reserved for a certain type of person, and he prided himself on knowing instantly who belonged and who didn't. "Can I help you, sir?" Robert's voice was polite, yet it held an edge that was difficult to ignore. His tone, meticulously measured, carried a hint of condescension, as if he were already bracing himself to turn Thomas away. Without giving Thomas a chance to respond, he added, "Our services here are quite exclusive and pricey. Perhaps you're looking for something a bit more within reach." The insinuation was sharp, a subtle dismissal wrapped in formal politeness. To anyone unfamiliar with this kind of subtle discrimination, Robert's words might have sounded like a simple offer of assistance. But Thomas was no stranger to such treatment. He had encountered this brand of prejudice more times than he cared to remember. It was a familiar sting, a reminder that even his success could not shield him entirely from the assumptions others made about him. In the past, such encounters would have ignited his temper, stirring a need to prove his worth to those who doubted him. But time and experience had taught him restraint, and he had learned to face these moments with quiet dignity. Thomas met Robert's gaze calmly, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. There was strength in his voice as he replied, his tone even and measured. "No, I'm right where I need to be." For a fleeting moment, Robert's expression wavered. His eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty, a hint of doubt that he quickly masked with a tight smile, devoid of any warmth. It was the smile of a man who had decided, reluctantly, to concede, though without fully relinquishing his judgment. "I see," Robert responded, his voice tinged with disbelief. With a slight nod, he turned and walked away, his posture rigid as he returned to his duties, leaving Thomas standing alone by the reception desk. Watching him go, Thomas felt a surge of conflicting emotions. The thrill of the day, the excitement that had carried him through the doors of the Grand Haven, had been momentarily dampened by the encounter. Yet, he refused to let Robert's reaction cast a shadow over his accomplishment. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, and reminded himself of the significance of this moment. Tomorrow, he would return to the Grand Haven not as a guest or visitor, but as its new owner. The thought rekindled his enthusiasm, and he left the lobby with a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning. As he walked out into the cool afternoon air, Thomas allowed his mind to drift toward the changes he would soon be implementing. He envisioned a future where the Grand Haven could maintain its standards of excellence without alienating those who, like him, had worked tirelessly to rise above their circumstances. He would preserve the hotel's elegance and exclusivity, yes, but he would also introduce a new culture, one that valued character as much as privilege, determination as much as pedigree. The Grand Haven would still cater to the elite, but it would also be a place where those who had earned their success could feel at home. In the days that followed, Thomas was a constant presence at the Grand Haven, meeting with department heads, reviewing policies, and familiarizing himself with the inner workings of the hotel. Each day brought new challenges and revelations as he dug deeper into the fabric of the institution he had admired from afar. He observed the staff, learning about their routines and the unspoken rules that governed their interactions with guests. He spent hours walking the corridors, taking in the details of the architecture, the art, and the decor that contributed to the hotel's unique charm. And as he moved through the spaces that would soon be his to oversee, he made a point of greeting the staff with warmth and respect, taking the time to listen to their stories and understand their perspectives. Thomas knew that real change would take time, and that there would be resistance from those who, like Robert, were deeply entrenched in the hotel's traditions. But he was undeterred. He believed that the Grand Haven could evolve without losing its essence, that it could become a place where elegance and inclusivity coexisted. As he continued to lay the groundwork for his vision, he found himself increasingly inspired by the people he met and the stories they shared. He saw potential in the Grand Haven, not just as a symbol of luxury, but as a place where people of all backgrounds could come together to experience the finest that life had to offer. And so, as he prepared for the official handover and his first day as the new owner of the Grand Haven, Thomas was filled with a sense of anticipation and resolve. He knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, but he welcomed it with open arms. After all, this was his dream, and he was determined to bring it to life, one step at a time. As he walked through the lobby on the eve of his takeover, he allowed himself one final look at the hotel as it was. Tomorrow, he would begin the process of transforming it into the place he had always envisioned, a Grand Haven that was not only grand in name, but grand in spirit. Undeterred, Thomas took a deep breath, maintaining his composure despite the palpable tension that hung in the air. The luxurious ambience of the hotel lobby, with its polished marble floors and elegantly arranged flowers, did little to soothe the unease that settled in his stomach. He approached the front desk with the intention of requesting information on booking a suite, hoping that a bit of formality might ease the tension that had arisen the moment he had entered. However, to his surprise, Robert, the hotel receptionist, stood firm in his stance, looking him up and down with barely concealed disdain. It was as if Robert didn't notice that Thomas's tailored suit was a designer piece, likely worth more than most of the attire he himself owned. Instead of acknowledging Thomas's sophistication, Robert leaned in slightly, crossing his arms as he spoke with an air of smug superiority that was unsettling. The receptionist's posture conveyed an unspoken message. He was the gatekeeper of the hotel's exclusivity, and he had no intention of letting anyone pass without proving their worth. "We don't usually entertain walk-ins," Robert stated, emphasizing his words as if he were imparting a lesson on proper etiquette rather than simply doing his job. His tone was laced with an underlying sense of authority, as if he was trying to assert dominance in this encounter. It was a power play that Thomas had encountered before, but he was determined not to let it rattle him. Thomas remained calm, replying in a polite but resolute tone, "Actually, I'm not here by chance. I have a very specific reason for being here." His words were measured, aiming to convey his seriousness and the importance of the meeting he intended to have. This remark seemed to amuse Robert, who raised an eyebrow as if the idea of Thomas having a legitimate purpose was laughable. An even more evident air of condescension settled on his face, as if he were about to enlighten Thomas about the realities of the world. With a smirk that dripped with sarcasm, he responded, "Is that so?" The tone was dismissive, dripping with skepticism that made it clear he had no intention of taking Thomas seriously. After a final, dismissive glance that seemed to appraise Thomas's worth, something he clearly found lacking, he added, "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at one of our partner hotels in another part of town." Thomas felt a rush of irritation at Robert's blatant dismissal. It was a familiar feeling, one that had followed him through various encounters in his career. He had always been met with skepticism by those who didn't understand his ambition or the drive that propelled him forward. Realizing that there was little point in trying to explain himself further, Thomas took a moment to compose himself. He understood that Robert was just doing his job, but the arrogance in his demeanor was hard to swallow. With a slight nod, Thomas replied, "Thank you for your time," before turning on his heel and exiting the hotel. As he walked out into the street, the cool air hit his face like a splash of cold water, invigorating him. He couldn't help but wonder if this was truly the staff he would soon be managing. The thought filled him with both determination and unease. Thomas had recently been appointed as the new general manager of the hotel. It was a prestigious position that came with its own set of challenges, not the least of which was transforming the culture of the establishment. As he strolled down the bustling street, he replayed the encounter in his mind, contemplating how he would address the issues of staff behavior and customer service. The hotel's reputation depended on every member of the team, from the receptionist to the cleaning staff, embodying the values of hospitality and respect. Yet, Robert's attitude was a glaring indication that change was necessary. Over the next few weeks, Thomas dove headfirst into his new role. He spent long hours reviewing operations, meeting with staff, and gathering feedback from guests. He quickly discovered that Robert was not an isolated case. The attitude displayed at the front desk reflected a broader culture within the hotel. Many employees seemed indifferent, operating under the belief that their job was simply to fulfill the minimum requirements rather than genuinely engage with guests. As he observed interactions, Thomas noted the subtle cues that signaled a lack of training and a deficit of motivation among the staff. He witnessed front desk personnel dismissing guests' requests without a second thought, waitstaff failing to provide timely service, and housekeeping neglecting basic cleanliness standards in some areas. Each observation chipped away at his initial excitement about the potential of the hotel and the team he had inherited. Determined to make a difference, Thomas organized a series of staff meetings to address these issues. He emphasized the importance of customer service, not just as a requirement, but as an integral part of their identity as a hotel. He presented statistics that highlighted the correlation between exceptional service and guest satisfaction, using real-life examples of how small gestures could lead to lasting impressions. Every interaction counts, he reminded them, hoping to ignite a spark of enthusiasm and pride among his staff. However, not everyone was receptive to his message. Robert, in particular, appeared unyielding. During one of the meetings, Thomas noted the disinterested expression on Robert's face as he made eye contact with others who were more engaged. The smug demeanor that Thomas had encountered during their first meeting resurfaced occasionally in their interactions, as Robert often questioned Thomas's authority and decisions. Thomas was left to wonder whether Robert saw him as a threat or merely a nuisance in his well-established routine. Despite the challenges, Thomas persisted. He introduced training programs designed to improve customer interaction skills and foster teamwork among staff. He sought to create an environment where employees felt valued and empowered to take initiative. To encourage participation, he introduced incentives for employees who went above and beyond in their service. The changes did not come overnight, but slowly, Thomas began to notice a shift in the atmosphere within the hotel. Some employees started to embrace the new culture, taking pride in their work and striving to create memorable experiences for guests. He observed previously indifferent staff members engage with guests in genuine ways, and the positive feedback began to trickle in from satisfied customers. However, the deeper issues regarding Robert's attitude remained unresolved. Thomas realized that this was not merely a matter of training, it was a cultural problem that stemmed from Robert's long-standing role within the hotel. It was clear that Robert needed to be addressed directly, but Thomas approached the situation with caution. He believed in addressing issues transparently and constructively, so he arranged a one-on-one meeting with Robert to discuss his concerns. When the day arrived for their meeting, Thomas felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. He wanted to ensure that Robert understood the importance of his role in shaping the hotel's culture and the impact his attitude had on both guests and coworkers. Thomas believed in Robert's potential. After all, he had extensive experience and knowledge of the hotel's operations. However, it would take a willingness to adapt and grow for Robert to truly contribute to the positive changes Thomas envisioned. As they sat down in the conference room, the tension was palpable. Robert leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, as if bracing himself for what was to come. "I hope you're not going to lecture me," he said, a hint of defiance in his voice. Thomas remained composed, taking a moment to gather his thoughts before responding. "No, that's not my intention," he replied calmly. "I want to talk about the changes we're implementing and how crucial your role is in making them successful." Robert's expression softened slightly, but the skepticism remained. "Look, I've been here for years. I know how things work. Not everyone will jump on board with your new ideas." Thomas nodded, acknowledging the truth in Robert's statement. "You're right. Change can be difficult, especially in a place that has its own culture and history. However, I genuinely believe we have the opportunity to elevate our service and create a more welcoming environment for our guests. It's essential that everyone, especially leaders like you, embody this vision." Robert sat up, intrigued despite himself. "And what if I don't agree with your approach?" "I'm not asking you to agree with everything right away," Thomas replied, choosing his words carefully. "But I am asking for your support. Your experience is invaluable, and with your help, we can turn this hotel into a place that people rave about. I want you to be part of that transformation." For a moment, silence hung between them. Thomas watched as Robert considered his words, the walls he had built around himself beginning to show signs of cracking. Finally, Robert sighed, uncrossing his arms and leaning forward. "Fine. I'll give it a shot, but you'll have to prove to me that these changes are worth it." Thomas felt a surge of relief. "Thank you, Robert. I appreciate your willingness to be part of this. Together, we can make a real difference." Over the following months, Robert gradually embraced his role in the changing culture of the hotel. While there were still moments of resistance, he began to take pride in his work, actively participating in training sessions and encouraging his colleagues to adopt the new mindset. With Thomas's guidance, Robert transformed from a reluctant participant to a champion of the changes, helping to mentor others and lead by example. As the hotel's reputation improved, Thomas felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. The once disparaging remarks from Robert and others had been replaced by camaraderie and teamwork. Guests began to rave about their experiences, leaving glowing reviews that highlighted the warmth and professionalism of the staff. Thomas's vision for a thriving hotel was finally becoming a reality. Reflecting on the journey, Thomas realized that change was not just about implementing new policies or procedures. It was about nurturing relationships and fostering a culture of respect and excellence. He understood that each staff member had the potential to contribute positively, and that sometimes all it took was a willingness to listen, learn, and grow. As he stood in the hotel lobby one evening, watching guests enjoy their stay and employees interact with enthusiasm, Thomas couldn't help but feel proud. He had faced challenges and overcome them, transforming not only the hotel but also the people within it. He had forged connections that would last, creating a legacy that would carry forward long after he had moved on. Thomas had learned that success is not solely defined by one's position or title but by the ability to inspire and uplift others. He knew that this was just the beginning of a remarkable journey, and he was excited to see where it would lead. The following morning, the entire hotel was bustling with an energy that was both exciting and nerve-wracking. Rumors of a new owner had spread like wildfire among the staff, igniting whispers and speculation in every corner of the building. The kitchen staff exchanged glances while prepping breakfast. The front desk personnel murmured behind their counters, and even the housekeeping staff seemed to move with an unusual urgency, their footsteps echoing through the halls as they tidied up the guest rooms. There was a palpable tension in the air, a mixture of hope and apprehension, as everyone wondered what this change might mean for their futures. As Robert reviewed his staff memo in his office, the atmosphere outside was charged with anticipation. The crisp morning light filtered through the blinds, casting stripes of illumination across his desk, highlighting the meticulous notes he had written. His mind was preoccupied with thoughts about the new owner, someone who could disrupt the carefully maintained status quo he had established over the years. Just then, he heard a quiet knock on the door. "Robert," said Sandra, his assistant, her face pale and tense. "You should come to the conference room. The new owner is here." Her words sent a jolt through Robert. His heart raced, and a mixture of curiosity and dread washed over him. He stood up abruptly, smoothing his tailored suit as he prepared to meet this new force in his professional life. Curiosity gnawed at him. He was eager to see who this new owner was, yet the reality of facing the man he had insulted just the day before loomed large in his mind. With an air of nonchalance, Robert strode into the conference room, pushing the door open with a sense of bravado. But as he stepped inside, he was met with a sight that stopped him in his tracks. There stood Thomas, the man he had so casually dismissed the previous day. Robert's jaw dropped in disbelief. The calm smile that Thomas wore was disarming, an image of confidence and poise that contrasted sharply with the awkward tension in the room. "It's good to see you again, Robert," Thomas said evenly, his voice steady, the weight of the moment evident in every syllable. Robert swallowed hard, struggling to regain his composure. The reality of the situation crashed down on him. He was standing in front of the new owner of the hotel, a man who had every right to hold a grudge against him. He had treated Thomas with disdain, assuming he was just another walk-in with no legitimate business in the upscale hotel. Now, that same man stood in front of him, representing a significant shift in power and authority. Yes, good to see you too, Thomas," Robert replied, his voice slightly shaky. He extended a hand, and they shook firmly, each man measuring the other. "Welcome to the hotel." "Thank you," Thomas replied, his gaze steady. "I'm looking forward to meeting everyone and understanding how we can work together to make this place even better." The words hung in the air, laden with unspoken implications. Robert couldn't help but feel a flicker of anxiety at the prospect of what Thomas's plans might entail. He had heard the buzz among the staff. Some were hopeful for changes, while others feared for their jobs. The new owner's vision could reshape everything, and Robert had a sinking feeling that he might not fit into that vision anymore. "Please have a seat," Robert offered, motioning toward the conference table. He could feel his pulse quickening as he did so, the reality of the situation dawning on him. "I'm sure everyone is eager to hear your plans for the hotel." Thomas took a seat at the head of the table, an unconscious gesture of authority that Robert could not ignore. He cleared his throat, glancing around the room as a few other staff members trickled in. drawn by the news of the new owner's presence. The atmosphere shifted, charged with a mix of anxiety and curiosity. As more employees entered the room, Thomas introduced himself, exuding a calm confidence that seemed to put everyone at ease. "I appreciate everyone coming on short notice. I know this transition can be daunting, but I believe in the potential of this hotel and the team that makes it all happen." He spoke with genuine enthusiasm, his voice warm and inviting. Thomas made an effort to connect with each employee, acknowledging their contributions and expressing gratitude for their hard work. It was a refreshing contrast to the previous regime, where the focus had often been on expectations rather than appreciation. Robert watched the interactions, a mix of admiration and envy bubbling beneath the surface. He had always believed in maintaining a professional distance with staff, but Thomas's approach was disarming. As Thomas continued to share his vision for the hotel, emphasizing the importance of teamwork, collaboration, and guest satisfaction, Robert began to feel a shift in the room. The tension that had initially filled the conference room began to dissipate, replaced by a budding sense of hope and optimism. After the introductions, Thomas took a moment to discuss his initial observations about the hotel. He acknowledged the challenges, but also pointed out the unique strengths that could be leveraged to enhance the guest experience. "We have an incredible opportunity to turn this hotel into a destination, not just for travelers, but for locals as well," he stated, his eyes sparkling with passion. "Imagine hosting events that showcase the community, engaging with local businesses, and creating experiences that keep guests coming back." The enthusiasm in Thomas's voice was infectious, and Robert found himself nodding along, caught up in the vision that Thomas painted. It was ambitious, perhaps even risky, but it resonated with something deep within him, a longing to be part of something greater, to contribute to a legacy rather than merely going through the motions of day-to-day operations. "Of course," Thomas continued, "to achieve this, we need everyone's input. I want to hear your ideas, your experiences, and what you believe could make a difference." He looked around the room, inviting dialogue, and Robert noticed several employees leaning forward, eager to share their thoughts. One of the housekeeping staff members spoke up. "We've been talking about updating the cleaning processes to be more efficient, especially during peak times. It could really improve guest satisfaction." "That's a great point," Thomas replied, genuinely interested. "Let's explore that further. Efficiency is key, but so is maintaining our quality standards. We need to strike the right balance." The discussion flowed organically, with staff members feeling emboldened to voice their opinions and suggestions. Robert found himself slowly transitioning from being an observer to an active participant, contributing ideas about enhancing the front desk experience and addressing long-standing issues that had been ignored for years. As the meeting progressed, Thomas skillfully navigated the conversations, guiding the team toward a collective understanding of the changes needed to elevate the hotel's service and reputation. His leadership style was refreshing, built on mutual respect rather than fear. Robert felt a strange sense of camaraderie beginning to form, and he realized that perhaps he could align himself with this new vision, finding ways to adapt his own approach to fit within this evolving framework. When the meeting concluded, Thomas thanked everyone for their contributions and encouraged them to keep the lines of communication open. "I'll be here regularly to meet with each department," he stated. "I want to know you better, understand your roles, and find ways we can work together to achieve our goals." Robert watched as the staff filed out of the conference room, buzzing with energy and excitement. He felt a newfound sense of possibility stirring within him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Perhaps, just perhaps, the changes Thomas proposed could breathe new life into the hotel and its staff. After the meeting, Robert approached Thomas, who was gathering his notes. "Can we talk for a moment?" Robert asked, his voice steady, but slightly uncertain. "Of course," Thomas replied, looking up with a smile that put Robert at ease. They stepped out of the conference room and into a quieter area of the hotel, away from the bustling crowds. Robert hesitated for a moment, weighing his words carefully. "I wanted to apologize for how I treated you yesterday. It was unprofessional, and I regret it." Thomas nodded, his expression open and understanding. "Thank you for saying that, Robert. I appreciate it. I know change can be hard, especially when it feels like someone is encroaching on your territory. It's not just that, Robert admitted, feeling vulnerable. I've been in this position for so long, and I've grown accustomed to running things a certain way. I guess I was caught off guard by your arrival. Change is never easy, Thomas acknowledged. But I'm here because I believe in the potential of this place, and I see that potential in you as well. I want you to be a part of this journey. Your experience and insight are invaluable. The sincerity in Thomas's voice resonated with Robert. For the first time, he felt as though he had an ally rather than an adversary. I want to help, Robert said, his tone earnest. I want to see the hotel succeed. I've just been resistant to change, not out of malice, but out of fear of losing what I've built. Thomas smiled warmly. We all have our fears, but together, we can create something incredible. Let's work on finding the right balance between the old and the new. With that, a sense of camaraderie formed between them, a bond built on mutual respect and a shared vision for the future of the hotel. Robert left the conversation feeling lighter, the weight of his previous hostility lifting. Over the next few weeks, Thomas continued to immerse himself in the hotel's operations, forging relationships with the staff and engaging in meaningful conversations about their roles. He was present during busy hours, helping at the front desk when necessary and spending time with the kitchen crew to understand their challenges. It was clear that he was not just a figurehead. He was a leader who genuinely cared about the team. As the staff began to embrace Thomas's leadership style, Robert found himself transforming as well. He adopted a more open approach, encouraging feedback from his team and fostering an environment where ideas could flow freely. He recognized that he had an opportunity to shape the hotel's future alongside Thomas, and that prospect filled him with a sense of purpose. One afternoon, as Robert was reviewing the feedback forms submitted by guests, he noticed a significant increase in positive comments regarding the service and the overall atmosphere of the hotel. Guests praised the warm interactions with staff and the noticeable improvements in the dining experience. It was evident that Thomas's vision was taking root, and the team was rallying around it. Things are looking up, Robert said to Thomas during one of their regular check-ins. The staff is more engaged, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. It feels like we're on the right track. Thomas nodded, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. That's great to hear, Robert. It's a testament to the hard work everyone is putting in. When people feel valued, they give their best. As the weeks turned into months, the hotel began to flourish under Thomas's guidance. Events were held that brought the local community together, and partnerships with nearby businesses blossomed, creating a vibrant atmosphere that attracted both locals and tourists alike. Robert watched as the hotel transformed, his initial fears fading as he embraced the changes and became an integral part of the team. One evening, during a celebration event to commemorate the hotel's renewed success, Thomas stood before the gathered staff, expressing his gratitude for their hard work and dedication. This achievement is not mine alone. It belongs to all of you. Together, we've breathed new life into this hotel, and I am proud to call you my team. The applause that followed was thunderous, a clear indication of the solidarity that had developed within the staff. Robert felt a swell of pride, realizing that he had played a role in this journey, overcoming his own resistance to change and learning to embrace new possibilities. As the evening wore on, Robert approached Thomas, who was mingling with the staff and enjoying the festivities. I wanted to take a moment to thank you, he said, his voice sincere, for pushing me to be better, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. You've made a significant impact, and I'm grateful for the chance to be part of this transformation. Thomas smiled, a look of genuine appreciation in his eyes. The journey has just begun, Robert. We have so much more to accomplish together, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. With that sentiment echoing in his mind, Robert felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had entered this journey with hesitation and doubt, but now he stood ready to embrace the future, excited to contribute to the growth of the hotel and the people within it. The path ahead was filled with challenges, but Robert was no longer afraid. He had found his place in this new era, and with Thomas at the helm, he felt optimistic about what lay ahead. Together, they would forge a legacy that would redefine not just the hotel, but the community it served. And as Robert looked around at his colleagues, all of them united in their mission, he knew that the best was yet to come. Robert, momentarily speechless, quickly composed himself and extended a shaky hand. "Mr. Thomas, I had no idea. You thought I couldn't possibly be someone important enough to be here, right?" Thomas's eyes held Robert's gaze, unflinching. Robert stammered,
I'm terribly sorry.
I assure you, I didn't mean any disrespect. We've just had issues in the past with, security." Sandra, standing to the side, felt her face flush with embarrassment on behalf of her manager. She knew the apology was insincere and sensed that Thomas saw right through it. "Let's not dwell on misunderstandings, Robert," Thomas said, his tone calm yet firm. "I'm here to assess the situation and see how we can improve things together. I'd like to hear your insights on the current challenges facing this hotel." Relieved to shift the focus away from his faux pas, Robert began to explain the hotel's recent difficulties, detailing the staff shortages and declining guest satisfaction ratings. He talked about the various attempts he had made to rectify the situation but expressed a sense of frustration over the lack of support from upper management. Thomas listened intently, nodding at appropriate intervals. "It sounds like you've been under considerable pressure," he replied. "But it also seems there's a lot of potential here. Tell me, what do you think would make the most significant impact on our guests' experiences?" As Robert contemplated his response, he couldn't help but notice the way Thomas engaged with him. He was genuinely interested, not just in the hotel's problems, but also in Robert's perspective as the manager. The sincerity in Thomas's approach began to dissolve Robert's initial unease. "I believe we need to enhance our guest services," Robert eventually replied. "We should focus on staff training, ensuring everyone understands the importance of creating memorable experiences for our guests. Additionally, more efficient communication between departments could minimize confusion and improve overall operations." "That's a solid start," Thomas acknowledged. "Training is vital. We need to empower our staff and ensure they feel equipped to meet the needs of our guests. How about we organize a team-building workshop and a training session on customer service best practices?" Sandra chimed in, encouraged by Thomas's openness. "I think that would be fantastic. A workshop could help us not only improve our service, but also boost morale among the team. We've been feeling a bit disconnected lately." Thomas smiled, his expression warm. "Exactly. We need to foster a collaborative environment. When staff members feel connected and valued, it translates to better service for our guests." Robert nodded, feeling a sense of hope. "I can work on scheduling that. We can even incorporate feedback from staff to tailor the training to our specific challenges." "Great," Thomas said, glancing at his watch. "I'm on a tight schedule today, but I'd love to meet with you both again later this week to discuss logistics. Let's set up a time." As they wrapped up the conversation, Robert felt a strange sense of camaraderie with Thomas, a feeling he hadn't expected when he first laid eyes on him. Thomas's presence had transformed from intimidating to inspiring, and Robert found himself eager to contribute to the hotel's revival. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Robert worked closely with Sandra to devise a comprehensive training program that addressed the staff's needs. They reached out to local hospitality experts who could provide insights and techniques that would resonate with their team. With each conversation, Robert felt his confidence growing. He was no longer the timid manager struggling to hold the team together. He was taking charge, creating a vision for a brighter future. As the training day approached, excitement buzzed throughout the hotel. Staff members were curious and engaged, eager to learn and improve. The atmosphere shifted from one of anxiety to anticipation, a palpable sense of change that Robert could almost taste. On the day of the workshop, Thomas arrived early, ready to support the initiative. He greeted staff as they arrived, encouraging them to share their thoughts and feelings about the hotel's direction. His charisma was infectious, and soon, the entire team was buzzing with energy. Robert stood by the entrance, watching the scene unfold. He felt a mixture of pride and gratitude for Thomas's leadership. It was as if a light had been switched on, illuminating the potential within the team that had been dimmed for far too long. As the training began, Thomas took the floor, sharing his vision for the hotel and emphasizing the importance of teamwork. This isn't just about improving our ratings, it's about creating a culture of excellence. Each of you plays a vital role in shaping the guest experience. Let's harness that power together. The staff responded positively, their enthusiasm ignited by Thomas's words. Robert facilitated discussions and encouraged team members to share their experiences and ideas. There was laughter, serious moments of reflection, and an overwhelming sense of unity in the room. As the workshop progressed, Robert found himself immersed in the energy of the day. The training sessions were hands-on, with role-playing scenarios that allowed staff to practice their customer service skills in a supportive environment. Thomas circulated throughout the room, offering encouragement and feedback, making everyone feel valued. By the end of the day, Robert felt as if a weight had been lifted. He saw his team more engaged than ever, their spirits lifted and their skills sharpened. As staff members left the training room, they were buzzing with excitement and camaraderie, eager to implement what they had learned.
Great.
"Job today, Robert," Thomas said as they stood together, watching the staff filter out. "You facilitated this beautifully." "Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I couldn't have done it without your support," Robert replied, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "The team really responded well to your vision." "I'm just getting started," Thomas grinned. "We have more work to do, and I'd love to see this energy translate into actionable results. Let's keep the momentum going." As the weeks unfolded, the changes Thomas had envisioned began to take shape. The hotel's atmosphere became more vibrant, with staff members going out of their way to provide exceptional service. Guests started to notice the improvements, and positive reviews began pouring in online. Robert was proud of the work they were doing, but he knew it wasn't just about the ratings. He was witnessing a transformation in his team, a renewed sense of purpose and commitment that inspired him every day. The challenges that had once felt insurmountable now seemed like opportunities for growth. One evening, after a particularly busy day, Robert and Thomas met for drinks to discuss the recent successes and strategize for the future. They settled into a quiet corner of the hotel bar, the ambience warm and inviting. "I'm impressed by how far we've come in such a short time," Robert said, taking a sip of his drink. "The staff is more engaged, and guests are leaving with smiles on their faces." Thomas nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "It's a testament to the power of teamwork. When people feel inspired, they achieve great things. I want to keep this momentum going. What's our next step?" "I believe we should expand our community outreach," Robert suggested. "We can host events that involve local businesses and residents. It would not only enhance our reputation but also strengthen our ties within the community." "That's an excellent idea," Thomas replied, leaning back in his chair. Building relationships with the community is crucial. It's not just about filling rooms, it's about becoming a valued part of the local fabric. They brainstormed ideas for events, charity fundraisers, local art exhibits, and community workshops that would showcase the hotel as a hub for creativity and connection. Robert felt invigorated by the possibilities, imagining how the hotel could become a beacon of warmth and hospitality in the area. As the plans took shape, Robert found himself reflecting on his journey since Thomas's arrival. He had grown both personally and professionally, learning the importance of adaptability and embracing change. He realized that he no longer feared the future. Instead, he looked forward to it with excitement. Weeks later, the hotel hosted its first community event, a charity fundraiser that brought together local businesses, artists, and residents for an evening of entertainment and giving. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of delicious food. Robert stood at the entrance, welcoming guests as they arrived. He couldn't help but notice the camaraderie among his staff, who were mingling with guests, sharing stories and laughter. The transformation was palpable, and he felt a sense of pride swelling within him. As the evening progressed, Robert caught Thomas's eye from across the room. Thomas raised his glass in a toast, and Robert felt a surge of gratitude wash over him. He had come to see Thomas not just as a boss but as a mentor and a friend. "Here's to the future," Thomas declared, his voice ringing clear above the chatter. "Together, we are building something extraordinary." The crowd responded with cheers, and Robert felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over him. They were creating not just a successful hotel, but a vibrant community hub that would leave a lasting impact on everyone involved. As the event drew to a close, Robert took a moment to reflect on how far he had come. He had faced his fears, embraced change, and become a leader in his own right. The hotel was thriving, and the future looked bright. With a sense of optimism, Robert looked forward to the next chapter in their journey. He had discovered the power of collaboration, resilience, and the unwavering spirit of a team committed to excellence. Together with Thomas and his dedicated staff, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that they would rise to meet them with determination and heart. Thomas took a deep breath, calming the frustration he'd carried since the previous day. "Here's the thing," he began, his voice steady but firm. "This hotel is about to go through some changes. I have a vision for it, one that includes respect and inclusivity." Robert's face paled. Thomas continued, "It's clear that certain values need to be adjusted if we want to live up to the image this hotel tries to present." His words hung in the air as the other staff looked on, understanding that he wasn't merely suggesting improvements, he was planning an overhaul. The room was filled with an uneasy silence, a contrast to the bustling atmosphere that usually surrounded the hotel. Staff exchanged glances, some unsure of how to react, while others seemed relieved that the issues had finally been addressed. Thomas took a moment to gauge their reactions before proceeding. "I know there have been challenges in the past, and that many of you have felt the weight of these issues," he continued, his tone softening slightly. "But moving forward, we must commit to creating an environment where every team member feels valued and respected. This includes not just our guests, but each other as well." Robert shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He had held onto his authority for so long, relying on outdated practices and a culture of intimidation that had fostered fear rather than collaboration. Now, faced with Thomas's vision, he felt the ground shifting beneath him. "I want to hear your thoughts," Thomas said, scanning the room. "This change isn't just about top-down directives. It's about building a collective commitment to our new values. We need your insights, your ideas." At first, no one spoke. The staff members seemed hesitant, caught off guard by the unexpected invitation to contribute. Finally, a young front desk clerk named Mia broke the silence. "I think a lot of us have felt unheard in the past," she said, her voice trembling slightly but gaining strength as she continued. "It would help if we could have regular meetings to discuss concerns and share feedback. Sometimes it feels like we're just here to do our jobs without really being part of a team." Thomas nodded, a smile breaking across his face. "That's an excellent point, Mia. Regular communication is essential for fostering a sense of belonging. I'd like to implement weekly check-ins where we can all come together to share updates and concerns, as well as celebrate our successes. Everyone should have a voice in shaping our culture." Robert's heart raced as he listened to the dialogue unfold. The ideas being discussed were the very ones he had dismissed or ignored in the past. He had always believed that the hotel's success depended solely on strict adherence to policies and procedures. Now, Thomas was challenging him to rethink everything. Another staff member, David, who worked in housekeeping, chimed in. "It would also be great to have some team-building activities outside of work. I think we'd get to know each other better and build trust if we could spend time together in a relaxed setting." "I agree," Thomas replied enthusiastically. "Building relationships among team members is crucial. We'll plan some activities, maybe volunteer opportunities, outings, or even workshops that allow us to learn and grow together." The room began to buzz with energy as more staff members contributed ideas. Sandra, Robert's assistant, suggested implementing a recognition program to acknowledge outstanding contributions from team members. "It's important to celebrate the hard work everyone puts in," she explained. "A simple thank you or recognition can go a long way in boosting morale." "Absolutely," Thomas said, clearly energized by the brainstorming session. "We will set up a monthly recognition program where we can highlight individuals and teams for their efforts. This isn't just about the big wins. It's about the daily contributions that make our hotel great. Robert, now keenly aware of his role in this transition, felt a shift within himself. As he watched the enthusiasm and determination of his staff, he realized that this was an opportunity for him as well. He could no longer remain an obstacle. He had to embrace this change and lead alongside Thomas. "I'd like to add something." Robert finally spoke, his voice steadier than before. "I understand that I have not always fostered an open environment, and for that I apologize. I want to work on being more approachable and receptive to feedback. This is a journey we're all taking together." The staff members responded with nods and smiles, their apprehension beginning to dissipate. It was a pivotal moment, one that marked the beginning of a new chapter for the hotel and its team. As the meeting continued, Thomas outlined his plans for the immediate future. "We'll be implementing new training programs that focus not just on technical skills, but also on interpersonal communication and emotional intelligence. These are essential for providing exceptional guest experiences and for building a cohesive team." He shared his vision of creating an inclusive culture that celebrated diversity and empowered every staff member. "Our hotel should reflect the community we serve, and that means embracing different perspectives, backgrounds, and experiences. This is what will set us apart." The discussion shifted to practical matters, how to implement these changes effectively without overwhelming the staff. Thomas encouraged everyone to collaborate on developing a timeline and set goals for the upcoming months. As they wrapped up the meeting, Thomas emphasized the importance of accountability. "We all need to hold each other accountable for upholding our new values. If you see something that doesn't align with our commitment to respect and inclusivity, speak up. Together, we can create a culture where everyone feels empowered to contribute." After the meeting, the staff filed out of the conference room, and Robert lingered behind to speak with Thomas. "I have to admit, I was skeptical at first," he confessed. "But seeing the team respond like that, it gives me hope. I can't believe I was so resistant to change." Thomas smiled, a sense of camaraderie building between them. "Change can be daunting, but it's also a chance to grow. I'm glad you're on board, Robert. Your leadership will be key in making this work." Feeling invigorated, Robert replied, "I want to do right by the team and the hotel. Let's make this happen together." As the days turned into weeks, the hotel began to undergo a transformation, one that was as much about its internal culture as it was about its external image. The staff's morale improved significantly, and the positive energy was palpable. Guests began to notice the difference, often commenting on the newfound friendliness and attentiveness of the staff. Mia, the front desk clerk, became more confident in her role, leading initiatives that encouraged her colleagues to share their experiences and suggestions. David from housekeeping organized a team outing, which not only boosted team spirit, but also solidified friendships among staff members who had previously barely interacted. The recognition program introduced by Sandra also took off. Each month, staff members would gather for a small ceremony to acknowledge their peers' hard work. Laughter and cheers filled the room as people celebrated their accomplishments, reinforcing the sense of community that was beginning to flourish. One particularly busy weekend, a high-profile guest arrived at the hotel. The staff had been briefed on how to provide an exceptional experience, and they were eager to impress. Thomas and Robert stood at the front desk, watching as Mia expertly handled the check-in process. The guest, a well-known celebrity, had a demanding list of requests, but Mia maintained her composure, ensuring that everything was taken care of promptly. "Great job, Mia," Thomas called out, beaming with pride. "You handled that beautifully." As the weekend progressed, Thomas received positive feedback from guests, and Robert marveled at how much the atmosphere had shifted. The staff members were genuinely happy, and their enthusiasm translated into exceptional service. Later that evening, Thomas and Robert took a moment to reflect on the progress they had made. They stood on the balcony overlooking the bustling city, the lights twinkling like stars. "I never thought we could turn things around so quickly," Robert admitted, a sense of awe in his voice. "It feels like we're finally living up to our potential." Thomas nodded, appreciating the moment. "It's a testament to the hard work of everyone involved." When you empower your team and create an environment where they feel valued, great things happen. As they continued to discuss the hotel's future, Robert couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in what they had accomplished together. He had transformed from a hesitant leader into someone who embraced change and championed a positive work culture. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that they could tackle them as a unified team. With renewed determination, they returned to the hotel, eager to continue building on their momentum. The journey was far from over, but they had taken significant strides toward creating a hotel that not only offered exceptional service, but also embodied respect and inclusivity, a place where both staff and guests could feel at home. Over the next few weeks, Thomas implemented new policies focused on respect, equity, and customer service. He brought in diversity training and emphasized the importance of welcoming every guest without prejudice. The atmosphere in the hotel shifted as staff members began to embrace the new vision. Many employees were eager for the change, seeing it as a way to elevate the hotel's reputation and provide a better experience for guests and themselves. Thomas began by organizing a series of workshops that focused on building awareness around diversity and inclusion. These sessions were designed not just to educate, but to foster open discussions where staff could share their thoughts and experiences. He invited a variety of speakers, community leaders, motivational speakers, and experts in hospitality to provide insights into how inclusivity could transform the workplace. During these workshops, employees discovered the value of understanding different perspectives. The sessions encouraged vulnerability and honesty, allowing employees to share their own stories. Mia, the front desk clerk, spoke about a time when she felt judged based on her background and how it had impacted her work. David from housekeeping opened up about his experiences as a first-generation immigrant and the challenges he faced in a new country. As they shared, the bonds among them deepened, creating a newfound sense of camaraderie. The impact of the training was immediate and profound. Employees began to treat each other with more respect and kindness, recognizing that everyone brought unique strengths to the table. Thomas noticed how the staff's morale was lifting, which translated into improved interactions with guests. The energy in the hotel was palpable, and the atmosphere felt more welcoming. In addition to the diversity training, Thomas introduced a new customer service initiative that empowered employees to make decisions on the spot to resolve guest issues. He believed that when staff felt confident in their ability to help, it not only benefited the guests but also fostered a culture of ownership and accountability among the team. One day, a family checked into the hotel, visibly exhausted from their journey. They had young children who were anxious and restless. As they approached the front desk, Mia greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome to our hotel. How was your journey?" The mother sighed. "It was long, and the kids are a bit fussy. We just want to get settled in." Recognizing the family's need for comfort, Mia quickly offered them complimentary snacks and drinks. She also suggested fun activities available at the hotel and nearby attractions. "If you need anything, just let me know. We're here to help," she said with genuine enthusiasm. The family's demeanor shifted instantly. "Thank you so much," the father replied, visibly relieved. "That's very kind of you." As they checked in, Thomas observed from a distance, pleased with how Mia handled the situation. He knew that this kind of service was exactly what he had envisioned for the hotel. Meanwhile, Robert was adjusting to his new role in the maintenance department. Although it was a significant step down from his previous position, he found that the change had its benefits. It allowed him to work more behind the scenes, away from direct guest interactions. In this new capacity, he could contribute to the hotel's success in a different way, focusing on improving facilities and ensuring everything ran smoothly. Initially resistant to the changes, Robert eventually recognized the value of the new direction the hotel was taking. He saw how the staff's attitudes had transformed and how the guests were responding positively. His encounters with the employees were more pleasant now that he wasn't directly in a supervisory role. They treated him with the respect he had not afforded them before, and this realization forced him to confront his previous behavior. Sandra, who had stepped into the role of manager, took her responsibilities seriously. She understood the importance of her position and worked hard to maintain the positive culture that Thomas had fostered. She scheduled regular team meetings, ensuring everyone felt included and heard. Employees were encouraged to voice their opinions and share their ideas for improvement. One day, during a staff meeting, she asked, "What do you think we can do to make our guests feel even more welcome?" A new employee, who had joined the hotel shortly after the training, suggested offering welcome kits for guests that included local treats, maps of the area, and personalized notes. "It could be a great way to introduce them to our community and make them feel special," she said, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "That's a wonderful idea," Sandra responded, taking notes. "Let's work on creating these welcome kits and see how our guests respond." As these initiatives took shape, the hotel's reputation began to flourish. Positive reviews on social media and travel websites poured in, praising the warm, welcoming atmosphere and the attentive staff. Guests commented on the visible improvements and how they felt valued throughout their stay. With these successes came challenges, of course. Not everyone adapted easily to the new culture. Some staff members who had previously relied on the old ways found it difficult to change their habits. Thomas and Sandra made it a priority to support those employees, providing them with additional training and mentorship to help them align with the hotel's new values. One particular incident tested the hotel's commitment to its new policies. During a busy weekend, a couple arrived at the hotel and were treated poorly by a night auditor who had been with the hotel for many years. This auditor, struggling to adjust to the new expectations, had responded to the couple's requests with impatience, causing them to leave the desk feeling disheartened. When Thomas learned the incident, he addressed it immediately.
He met with the
Dieter privately, expressing his concerns and emphasizing the importance of respect in every interaction. This isn't just about following rules. It's about creating a space where everyone feels valued, including our guests, Thomas explained calmly. The auditor was defensive at first, but Thomas remained patient. "I understand that change can be challenging. I want to support you through this transition. How can we work together to improve?" Over time, the auditor opened up about their struggles and fears regarding the new policies. Thomas listened attentively and offered guidance, reinforcing the idea that personal growth was a journey, not a destination. With time and encouragement, the auditor began to improve, slowly embracing the new culture alongside the rest of the team. As summer approached, the hotel launched a community outreach program, further strengthening its commitment to inclusivity and engagement. Staff members volunteered for various local charities, and the hotel hosted events that encouraged community participation. Thomas believed it was essential for the hotel to give back and foster connections beyond its walls. One of the events was a charity gala, where the hotel partnered with local organizations to raise funds for underprivileged families in the area. The staff worked tirelessly to plan the event, showcasing their newfound teamwork and commitment to excellence. The night of the gala was a remarkable success, filled with laughter, goodwill, and generous contributions from guests and staff alike. The positive impact of these initiatives rippled throughout the hotel. Employees felt more connected to one another and to the community they served. They took pride in their work, and the hotel's reputation began to reflect that dedication. As for Robert, he found a new sense of purpose in his role. While he may have once seen himself as superior to others, he began to appreciate the importance of every team member's contribution. He took it upon himself to mentor newer staff members, sharing his knowledge and experience with them. This shift allowed him to develop meaningful relationships with his colleagues, who in turn respected him for his willingness to help. Months passed, and the hotel became a shining example of what could be achieved when a team united under a common vision. Guests felt at home, and staff members were proud to be a part of something greater than themselves. Thomas, reflecting on the journey, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not only transformed the hotel, but had also changed the lives of those who worked there. By fostering an inclusive culture and emphasizing respect and equity, he had created a space where everyone could thrive. As he looked around the bustling lobby one morning, he felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. The staff was engaged and interacting warmly with guests, embodying the values he had worked so hard to instill. In that moment, Thomas realized that this was just the beginning. There was still much work to be done, but he felt confident that they were on the right path. With a dedicated team behind him and a clear vision ahead, he knew that the hotel would continue to flourish, transforming not only the guest experience, but also the lives of everyone who walked through its doors. Within months, the Grand Haven Hotel had transformed into a vibrant hub of warmth, inclusivity, and exceptional service. The changes Thomas implemented reverberated throughout the building, creating an atmosphere that both guests and staff appreciated immensely. From the moment visitors stepped into the lobby, they were greeted by friendly smiles and genuine warmth, a stark contrast to the aloofness that had characterized their previous experiences. The shift in culture was evident in every interaction. Staff members were more engaged, eager to go above and beyond to ensure guests had a memorable stay. The front desk, once a place of indifference, became a welcoming point of contact, where employees took the time to learn guests' names and preferences. They no longer saw guests as just a number. They recognized them as individuals with unique stories and needs. As Thomas walked through the hotel, he could see the results of his efforts. The once somber staff now radiated enthusiasm. During one of his rounds, he stopped by the cafe where Mia was working. She was chatting with a couple seated at a table, laughing as she recommended the best pastries. "Good morning, Mia. Looks like you're having fun," Thomas remarked, leaning against the counter. "It's great to see our guests enjoying themselves. We've had so many wonderful stories shared at this table," she replied, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yesterday, a family told me about their first trip here as kids. They brought their children back to relive those memories." Thomas smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. These connections were what he had envisioned when he first stepped into the hotel. The importance of storytelling and connection was now deeply rooted in the hotel's culture. Thomas didn't stop at creating a warm atmosphere within the hotel. He believed that a successful hospitality establishment had to be an integral part of the community it served. To that end, he initiated programs that allowed the hotel to give back to the local area. He organized community outreach events, inviting local charities and organizations to collaborate on various initiatives. One of the most notable events was the Grand Haven Community Day, a day dedicated to celebrating the diverse cultures represented in the neighborhood. The hotel hosted food stalls featuring international cuisines prepared by local chefs, live music performances from local artists, and activities for families. The event drew a large crowd, and the sense of community spirit was palpable. As guests mingled with locals, they learned about the rich history of the area and its cultural diversity. The hotel's lobby was adorned with colorful decorations representing different cultures, enhancing the festive atmosphere. Guests enjoyed sampling dishes from around the world, while the aroma of spices filled the air. Children laughed and played in designated areas, their joy echoing throughout the hotel. Thomas moved through the crowd, chatting with guests and locals alike, his heart swelling with pride. He saw families bonding over food, friends reconnecting, and laughter shared across generations. It was a beautiful tapestry of life that encapsulated what he envisioned for the Grand Haven Hotel, a place that wasn't just about luxury, but about creating memories that guests would cherish forever. Despite the hotel's success, Thomas faced challenges that tested his resolve. Not everyone was on board with the new direction. A handful of employees, particularly some who had been with the hotel for many years, were resistant to the changes. They clung to the old ways, believing that the new initiatives undermined their traditional practices. One afternoon, Thomas received feedback from Sandra, now the hotel manager. "We're making great strides, but there are still some staff members who are resistant to change. They feel that our emphasis on inclusivity is diluting the hotel's brand," she explained during their weekly meeting. "Have you spoken to them about their concerns?" Thomas inquired, leaning forward. "I have, but they seem set in their ways. I think they fear that if they adapt, they'll lose their identity," she replied, furrowing her brow. Thomas took a moment to consider. "Perhaps we need to create a dialogue. Let's host a meeting where they can voice their concerns openly. We can address their fears and show them that inclusivity can coexist with tradition." That evening, he arranged for a meeting with the concerned staff members. As he stood in front of them, he felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. He knew that this conversation could pave the way for greater understanding or deepen the divide. "I appreciate you all taking the time to meet," Thomas began, his voice steady but empathetic. "I understand that the changes we've made might feel overwhelming. I want to hear your thoughts, concerns, and ideas. This hotel is a shared space, and I believe we can move forward together." For the next hour, staff members expressed their apprehensions, sharing stories about their experiences in the hotel. They discussed how they felt the changes might alienate longtime guests who valued tradition over innovation. Listening carefully, Thomas acknowledged their feelings and provided reassurance. "I hear you. Our history is important, and it's a significant part of who we are. But embracing inclusivity and respect doesn't mean we have to abandon our traditions. It means we can enhance the experience for everyone." Gradually, the tension in the room began to dissipate. As they discussed the potential for blending the old with the new, the employees started to see how they could create a unique hotel experience that honored the past while looking to the future. By the end of the meeting, there was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Staff members felt heard, and many began to express their willingness to adapt. Thomas knew they weren't there yet, but it was a significant step toward unifying the team. As the months rolled on, the Grand Haven Hotel gained a new reputation, not just as a luxurious stay, but as a beacon of inclusivity and hospitality in the community. Word of mouth spread, and travelers from far and wide sought out the hotel, eager to experience the welcoming atmosphere Thomas had cultivated. Online reviews highlighted the transformation, praising the staff for their attentiveness and warmth. Travelers shared stories of how they felt truly valued, remarking on the small gestures that made their stay memorable. Thomas was thrilled to see the fruits of his labor reflected in the positive feedback. One evening, while attending a local business awards ceremony, Thomas was honored to receive the Community Partner of the Year award. As he stepped onto the stage to accept the accolade, he felt a rush of emotions. The journey had been filled with challenges and triumphs, but standing there, he felt a sense of fulfillment that he hadn't anticipated. "Thank you for this incredible honor," he began, his voice resonating in the auditorium. "This award is not just for me, but for the entire team at the Grand Haven Hotel. Together, we have built a community of hospitality that values every individual who walks through our doors. I am proud to lead such a dedicated team, and I look forward to continuing our journey of inclusivity and excellence." The audience erupted into applause, and Thomas felt a sense of pride swell within him. He knew this was just the beginning. There were still more goals to achieve, more connections to foster, and more stories to share. Back at the hotel, Thomas reflected on the past months. The changes he had initiated were not merely operational, they had redefined the very essence of the Grand Haven Hotel. He envisioned a legacy that extended beyond profitability. His mission was to create a place where every guest felt like they belonged, a sanctuary that celebrated diversity and fostered connection. As he looked around the hotel, he noticed the intricate details, the warm lighting, the carefully curated art pieces that celebrated local artists, the welcoming lobby filled with laughter. He knew these elements contributed to the hotel's identity, a blend of tradition and modernity that invited guests to make it their own. In the following months, Thomas set his sights on expanding the hotel's outreach efforts. He envisioned a mentorship program that would empower underprivileged youth in the community to explore careers in hospitality. He wanted to create opportunities for young people to learn about the industry, providing them with skills that would serve them well in the future. He gathered the staff and shared his vision. "I believe we can make a real difference in our community. By offering mentorship and training, we can inspire the next generation of hospitality professionals. Who would be interested in being part of this initiative?" Hands shot up around the room. Employees were eager to participate, excited about the chance to give back. Thomas felt a surge of gratitude as he watched their enthusiasm. Over the next few months, the mentorship program took shape, attracting local youth eager to learn. Thomas and the staff worked diligently to create a curriculum that covered everything from customer service to hotel management. The program was not just about teaching skills. It was about building relationships and instilling confidence in the participants. As the first group of men began their training, Thomas marveled at the impact of their efforts. The hotel became a place of learning, a hub for inspiration and growth. Mentors and ments bonded over shared experiences, and the hotel buzzed with energy as new ideas flowed. As Thomas looked back on the journey, he realized that the Grand Haven Hotel had become more than just a place to stay. It was a community, a haven for those seeking connection, understanding, and warmth. He had created an environment where every guest felt valued, regardless of their background, and where staff members felt empowered and engaged. With the hotel thriving and the community benefiting from their outreach efforts, Thomas knew that this was not just business. It was the beginning of a legacy he was proud to call his own. The Grand Haven Hotel was now a model of what hospitality could be, a place where stories were shared, cultures were celebrated, and connections were forged. In the end, Thomas understood that true success was not measured solely by profits or awards, but by the impact one could have on the lives of others. As he walked through the bustling lobby, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The laughter of guests, the smiles of staff, and the vibrant energy of the hotel all reminded him that he had achieved something truly remarkable, a legacy of belonging that would endure for years to come.
Disclaimer: this channel does not support or tolerate any form of discrimination, racism, prejudice, or violation of human rights. The stories presented here are original and created by the author with the aim of promoting reflection, awareness, and dialogue. All content is developed with respect for diversity and the dignity of all people.